Hello everybody and welcome to Student Budgets. My name is Daniel for those of you who are new, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the goals that I set in December. So during Vlogmas I set up basically some goals that I want to set for myself, which might be cash stuffing, some were YouTube goals, some were saving goals, and throughout the year I've also done some budgeting goals as well. And what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to be looking at them all. So I'm going to basically go through the list that I set out, which I'm going to do now. So I've got them on my computer. Hello computer. So, what did I do? So, at the beginning of the year, I set my goals up in high priority, medium priority, low priority, and then I also set a YouTube goal. So, in terms of the high priority, what I basically have said is I would like to open up a LISA, which I haven't done yet. I know I said I was going to do that by March, but I kind of realised that it didn't really matter massively if I set it a bit later. So I'm going to be doing that probably for the next month. I want to build up an emergency fund of £500 and have a random fund for £100. Now that random fund would basically just be a splurge envelope, kind of like an envelope that I can use for whatever I want, basically. If I want to go out, enjoy myself, if I want to basically what I call a retail therapy envelope. I then had medium priority, which was have £100 in self-care, £100 in my house fund, so that would be for decorating, which I don't need anymore. So we're going to obviously be seeing that very shortly, what I'm going to set up for my 2025 mid sort of end of year goals. And then I also said general savings, I wanted to save £1,000. And to the moth to a flame binder, which is my little wonder, I want to try and save £600 or close to that as possible. And then in terms of my low priority, we had £150 into clothing and between £100 to £200 in days out. I also set up a goal of having 500 subscribers on YouTube. So if you are watching and you are new, please do feel free to subscribe for some more budgeting content, bit of cash stuffing. What's not a love? And basically with them goals, what I would like to do is I want to kind of set out some new goals. We're going to update some of them because some of them, what I originally set up for, aren't as realistic going into the final 5 sort of months of the year. Some of them are still doable, some of them I can definitely still do or get close to. Being a student, income's really weird because it's so flexible and it changes constantly. You never really know what you're going to get, and a lot of the money you really are banking on, hoping to get, things like bursaries, you don't really find them out until late on in August. So a lot of this could change, but I think having that plan in set and having sort of 2 different pathways that I can go down depending on whether I think like things like, do I get bursaries, do I have this, do I have that, and if not, we'll still make it work. We'll still be a way I can do it, and I think we should be okay. So what we're going to do now is now that I've went through those original goals, we are going to look at the goals that I'm going to set for the remainder of the year. So without further ado, let's go over to the tripod and let's set them all up. So let me just write in the middle 2025. So now that I've went through those goals, we are going to set it up the exact same way. So we're going to have our high priority, our medium priority, our low priority. We're going to have a little section for YouTube, and I'm also going to have a few budgeting goals, which I'm going to go through as well during this little segment. So in terms of my high priority, let me get a pen. So as I said, I am still planning on opening up a LISA. Now, a LISA, for people who don't know, is basically a fund which will contribute towards your house. So you can put up to £4,000 a year into there. You get interest, and the government also pop in 25% additional. So that basically, you can either use that for your retirement or for your own house. And that's something as a student I still want to set up. Even if it was a case of you put £1 in per year, it is worth just having that there in the first place, and it's a good step to get in the right direction. Now, in terms of my emergency fund, that is still part of my high priority, and if there's one thing this year I want to have as close to completion as possible, it is that. I have said that ideally I want that to be around about 90% plus. So if I want to say 500, roundabout, as long as it's round about 400 to 450, I'm quite happy. I know at present it's got, I believe, 265 in. So as long, too far, if I get Duck Books finished, which is the challenge I'm doing towards it by the end of this year, I'll be happy because then it's getting there. It's not that far away from being done. The final thing I want to do, which isn't necessarily what I'm calling a random fund, is I want to call it a buffer fund. And so basically, I want to ideally save around about £100 in there. Now, if that does end up being counted as being an emergency fund, that is all right. I kind of want to call it, to be fair, a buffer slash random fund, like a sort of like retail therapy I can go out and spend. It's not necessarily part of the budget. However, I have said, as I talked about, if I don't get a bursary or if I don't have anything helping, money will be a lot tighter. And so what I would just do is I will say £50 with, if I didn't have it, £100 if I do. So you're gonna see that if I basically do a dash like that, the upper is with and the lower is without. So now that I've kind of looked at that high priority, so these are the things that if I had to pick an order, these would be done first and the latter would be done later. In terms of the medium priority, I would like to put a little bit more into self-care. Self-care for me is just important to have in general. If it doesn't get anything in though, it's not the end of the world, which is why it's not in the high priority. It's already got £50 in there. And as I said in the opening bit, I want to end up saving roughly about £100 in there. So ideally, if I have a bursary, I'm going to add another £50 in. And if not, I'm only going to add another 25 in at the max, really. If it even didn't get 25, it wouldn't be the end of the world because I've still got £50 saved in there. But ideally, we'd have that little bit of money in there. Next up is general savings. So in the intro, I said I ideally would like to save £1,000, and that is roughly still like on trend. However, it's not the end of the world again if that does not happen. So what ideally I've said is if I can kind of round up my savings to the closest next 1,000. So they're currently, if I remember correctly, round about 2,200 based off all the cash stuffing I've done over the past year and a half, which is really good. And I'm really happy about that. And I probably can round it up to 3,000 if I want. That is basically just to have as an absolute savior. Like if I really had to dip into it for uni or whatever, I have it there just in case. So it's not an emergency, but it's there. Sometimes it ends up being used for other little things as well, but it just depends. So to be fair, the money I'm earning on my current job I have at the moment over the summer, I can put all towards that if I want to. And I might begin doing that depending on what happens. So that might end up being some content due in the autumn. So September, October, November, but I'm just going to say about that. And if I don't have a bursary, then I've kind of said just get it as best as possible. So if without a bursary, it's just a case of I add literally £50 in throughout 4 months, so be it. What I am doing at present with having a lower income and trying not to use any of the work income that I get, so I'm not using any of that for anything whatsoever. I'm not using it for spending. I'm literally just putting it in a pot just in case. And basically with that, instead of using that, I'm just doing £20 a week, rolling some dice, and it works brilliantly. And I really would encourage it for people on a low income to do that. It's just great. It's a really fun way of doing cash stuff, and if you don't have much money, literally even just a £5 per week, you know, it's something. Low priority. So first of all, I've said clothing. Because if you know me, I like clothing like there's no tomorrow. I love buying it. I love looking around. And so it's important to have that for me. So what I've said with that is I want to get it to roughly between £120 to £150. So each month I typically budget about £10. I put that into my cash stuffing envelope for that. It's currently about 80. So I worked out that if I did £10 between now and the end of the year, it would have about 120 to 130 in there. Obviously, if I have good months, I might put a bit more in. If I don't, I'll not put anything in, which is why I've kind of left it quite open, quite a nice range. But either way, that'll be really nice going the end of the year. Obviously, I might end up dipping into it for some winter clothing, even though I have plenty. You know, I love a new jumper, a new cardigan. Brilliant. That's just what I want. And also days out. Now, ideally for days out, I'd love to get it up to about £100. during the summer, I forever will blitz days out because I like going out places. Even if when I'm at uni at times, I will blitz it a little bit. It's only currently got £30 in. It had 60 in. I used £30 a couple of weeks ago for that. So it's a case of just building that up, hoping for the best. Now, in terms of YouTube, so with YouTube, I obviously said I wanted 500 at the beginning of the year. And the way this year has been, it hasn't really worked out exactly in that sense. So I've kind of reduced that down to say 400. So at the time that I'm filming this, which is a week in advance, we are on, I believe, 274. And we were on 272, but 2 people today have subscribed. So if you're watching, thank you so much for subbing. And if you are new, please do feel free to subscribe. And yeah, so my hope is that if it's like last year, going into the end of the year, we usually do pick up a bit more, but obviously that's on 1 year of data, so it's hard to say. I am going to be doing Vlogmas again. I'm going to be doing a video, not even every 2 days, every day, and I've already begun planning it. So if things work out, that would be brilliant. Now, in terms of my budgeting goals as well, I didn't talk about them much in the intro because I didn't set them out in that original video. However, as I say, throughout the past few months, I have begun setting goals up. So those goals are just going to continue, but I want to have them in this video because I think that's really important. So first of all, I like to have half my days as no spend days, and I just call them NS days. So basically that would mean I literally spend absolutely nothing, not even essentials, not groceries, not a thing gets spent. So I try and have half of those days. So obviously, most of the time that's 15 days. So obviously in February it's 14. But ideally, if I stick around about there, I typically find I do quite well. Now going into basically every single month, I also like to spend no more than £300 total. And that will continue going into the next academic year, which I'm going to class as starting from August, because basically that's when I'm going to have my new budgeting book. Hopefully I'm going to have my calendars all start then. So that's when I'm going to class it, August to next July is the academic year. So £300 per month. Doesn't include rent, that because rent just comes out automatically and I don't like to include it because it just messes everything up. So basically everything else that gets spent is included in there. And ideally with that, I like to just try and have no low spend months. So that basically will mean less splurging, which is why I want to build up a buffer sort of going out fun fund for that sole reason. And with that, that is all our goals. I've just realised I haven't put them on general savings like that. Brilliant. So that there is sort of the goals I want to have going in to the final few months of 2025. It'll be 2026 shortly, and that's really scary to think about. But yeah, so I'm really happy that I've done this video just because it sets everything out perfectly, and I'm really happy about that. But with the end of the video being now, I just want to thank you all so much for watching. Remember that you are special, and I would 100% recommend having a look at your own goals, and I really hope people do, because I look forward to watching those videos. And 100% do tag me in them, so I do definitely get the notifications to watch them, because I'd love to watch them. And with that, thanks so much for watching, and I shall hopefully see you all in the next video, which will be on Monday. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to check out any of the videos below, and remember to subscribe. Thank you.